You never forget the moment a room lies to you. It looks warm. It looks safe. The lamps glow. The floors shine. The voices are calm. But the air is heavy. It pushes down on your chest like a silent hand. It tells you without words, danger is here, and it is already watching you. That was 1991. The city was restless. It wore its winter like an old bruise, yellow at the edges, dark in the middle. I was 23 and full of that kind of confidence that makes you think you can outrun anything. Between detective cases, I worked private security. It was a different kind of job, a suit instead of a badge, a tie instead of a shield. It paid the bills, kept my mind sharp, and kept me from finding trouble on my own. My boss, McKenna, was a thick-necked man with a mustache that looked carved in stone. One morning, he leaned over my desk and said, "Harry, we're going to a funeral." I told him I didn't do funerals unless they were for me. He shook his head. "You're not going to mourn," he said. "You're going to keep the living alive." Then he said the name, Fitzgerald. That name could freeze a bar mid-song. Some people feared them. Some people worked for them. The smartest people stayed out of sight. I tried a joke. "So this is like a Vegas fight night without tickets?" McKenna didn't even blink. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were floor plans, schedules, vehicle placements. The job was the family estate, after the church service. Expected head count, a crowd. Expected mood, Irish. Our team was 6. Rico, ex-Marine, square shoulders, steady eyes. Tamsin, sharp, quick, the kind who saw trouble before it had a name. Bobby, 2 coffees, always jittery until the first punch was thrown. Omar, medic, calm even when the world wasn't. McKenna, too old for sprinting, too stubborn to retire. And me, quick on my feet, still learning when not to use them. We planned for everything we could think of. Checked the comms. Mapped escape routes. McKenna's rules were simple. Keep the women and kids together. Keep the drunks away from the other drunks. Keep tempers locked up. Then he added, if someone hands you a drink, smile, take it, and pour it into a plant. We pulled up just past noon. The Fitzgerald estate looked like a medieval castle dropped into the middle of quiet suburbia. Stone walls. High iron gates. Hedges cut so perfectly they looked painted. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and expensive perfume. Marble floors shone like ice. Chandeliers burned daylight into gold. Oil portraits lined the walls, faces from another century, eyes that followed you. A housekeeper in black met us at the door. She led us through the rooms, naming them in a low voice. In the parlor stood a massive wardrobe. She paused and tapped its polished wood. "The old man's collection," she said with a small smile. I asked what kind. "Old things," she said. "Things that cut." At 11:30 sharp, black SUVs began to arrive. Women in black dresses stepped out first, holding the arms of their sons and nephews. Tears on their cheeks, steel in their eyes. Grief and caution, walking side by side. We split into our positions. Rico took the back terrace. Tamsin floated inside, blending into the shadows. Bobby took the kitchen hall. Omar set up near a corner where he could work if things went bad. McKenna walked the halls. I stayed at the front gate, with one foot inside the foyer. The first hour passed quietly. Soft voices, slow handshakes, small nods. Every now and then, a burst of laughter would break out, too loud, too fast, before sinking back into whispers. Tamsin passed me once and murmured, "No one here trusts anyone else." I said, "Good. Neither do I." By 1 o'clock, the mood was shifting. The stiffness melted into stories. The piano began to play. Whiskey glasses clinked. The Irish way, tears, music, drink. I kept my head clear. I'd learned long ago that the first glass could warm you, but the fourth would bury you. I scanned the room between patrols. A gray-haired aunt who never stopped watching the door. 3 cousins in sharp suits with the restless look of men who wanted to be anywhere but in line. A teenage boy running his fingers along the banister like he was memorizing it. Little things began to stand out. A kitchen runner whispering to a cousin. 2 strangers walking the halls slowly, counting something with their eyes. A gardener checking the same fence post twice. I clicked the radio. Eyes on the back perimeter. Something's off. Rico gave 1 click in return. Tamsin, women are moving kids to the den. Could be instinct. Could be training. McKenna, stay cool. Prevent. Don't predict. The music grew louder. The floor began to vibrate with dancing feet. From the garden, the shadows stretched long toward the fence. At 2:10, Tamsin appeared at my side. East corridor, she said quietly. 3 men. No drinks. Twice. I asked if they were family. 1 is. The other 2, wrong weather. McKenna gathered us briefly. Tighten rotations. Bobby, East Hall. Omar, be ready for injuries. Rico, watch the garden from cover. Harry, gate and foyer. Tamsin, keep your eyes open. The house was loud now. Voices climbing over each other. Footsteps moving quicker. I passed the big wardrobe again. An elderly woman in pearls opened it, checked inside, and closed it with care. She looked at me and gave a small nod. I felt like I'd agreed to something without knowing what it was. At 2:30, the sunlight turned gold and heavy. Rico's voice came through the radio. Back corner, northwest. Something's wrong. What kind of wrong? I asked. Too quiet, he said. Then a heavy thud. Another. McKenna, positions. Lock it down. Families inside. The staff moved fast, as if they'd practiced this before. Doors shut. Tamsin gathered children with a steady smile. Bobby moved like a shadow down the east hall. Omar swore under his breath. I glanced at the glass doors to the back lawn. From outside came a third thud, heavier than the others. The music stuttered, then surged louder. That was always a bad sign. Rico, I said into the radio, what's happening? Fence, he answered. Left of the gazebo. Someone's breaking in. I started moving. Through the foyer. Past the portraits. Past the wardrobe. Past the women holding heavy objects in their hands like weapons. In my pocket, the rosary dug into my palm. The house still looked calm. But underneath the laughter, I heard it. The sound of calm running out. The third thud was followed by the sound of wood splintering. It was the kind of sound that makes your teeth ache. I moved through the hall at a fast walk, one hand near my side, the other holding the radio. When I reached the back of the house, I saw it, a section of the high wooden fence shuddering under the swing of a sledgehammer. 1 masked man. Then 2 more behind him. The next hit blew a hole wide enough to step through. And they did. A dozen of them. Black clothes. Balaclavas. Gloves. Bats in their hands, hammers swinging, brass knuckles glinting in the last of the sun. They didn't come in slow. They came like they'd rehearsed this. We had almost nothing close to their firepower. A few things we weren't supposed to have, but not enough. Instinct took over, move people, block doors, buy time. I saw Rico pushing guests toward the back hall, shouting for them to get inside. Tamsin pulled 2 kids by the hands and vanished toward the stairs. Bobby was already locking the patio doors. One of those doors was glass. It lasted 3 seconds. A bat swung, the glass shattered inwards, and the mob poured into the room like a flood. Shards crunched under their boots as they spread through the hall. The Fitzgerald men were already halfway drunk. They saw masked intruders, and all they knew was fight. They charged. For a few moments, it was chaos, fists flying, shouts, the crack of wood on bone. 2 attackers went down hard, but the rest surged forward and swallowed the defenders. That chaos was our opening. I grabbed the arm of a woman in her 60s and pointed her toward the front hall. "Cars," I told her. She nodded and started moving people. We got some of the women and children to the front, others upstairs. Every second felt heavy, stretched thin. Then the attackers turned toward the staircase. And my stomach tightened. If they got up there, it was over. The old man's collection was upstairs, in that wardrobe. And the person who opened it wasn't a bodyguard. It was a grandmother in pearls. She pulled out weapons like she'd been waiting for this moment all day. Samurai swords. Zulu spears. A broadsword so heavy she had to drag it by the hilt. She handed them out without a word. One of those spears ended up in my hands. Short, balanced, sharp. I pointed it at the first masked man to put a boot on the stairs. "Take one more step," I told him, "and you'll be wearing this." They hesitated. That pause was worth gold. From above, the women joined in, not with swords, but with whatever they could throw. High heels. Heavy ashtrays. Glass bottles. One huge marble ashtray smashed into a man's temple. He dropped without a sound, twitching on the floor. His friends dragged him toward the garden, ducking as more things rained down from above. That was the break we needed. They could have pushed through. But they decided it wasn't worth it. They retreated the way they came, smashing what they could reach as they went. Vases. Mirrors. Picture frames. The hallway looked like a battlefield, glass, wood splinters, dark stains spreading across the marble. I moved through the wreckage, counting heads. Some guests were curled up against the wall, hands over their faces. Others sat holding broken arms or bleeding cuts. One man clutched his face, his right eye was a mess. We kept the kids upstairs, but their wide eyes told me they'd heard everything. The screams. The crashes. The shouts. Some sounds don't fade, not for a long time. When the police arrived, the usual silence of this world broke. Even the men who never talked were naming names. Rival gang. Came for blood, or maybe for show. The man who took the ashtray to the head didn't make it to a hospital that day. The hit damaged him, brain injury, seizures. A week later, he showed up in the emergency room, and the police took him in. He was the only one who faced charges. His crew left him behind. Months later, bodies from that crew began turning up across the city. Not all of them, just the ones who had been at the Fitzgerald estate that day. I wasn't there to see it. I'd already walked away. Security work in this world is tied to the mob like two sides of the same coin. You can't hold one without touching the other. And the other side always cuts you. I went back to guarding shops and malls. Less money. More peace. No more waiting for the sound of glass shattering at my own door. It was the best decision I made in 40 years of service. But sometimes, when a room feels too quiet, I remember that day. The warm light. The polite smiles. The music just loud enough to hide the first cracks. And I remember the sound that means it's already too late. The sound of calm running out.